Okay, good evening, friends. Today I'm taking a very important topic, structural equation modeling. This topic is very easy, very easy, most common, and everybody heard about structural equation modeling. But this some complications are also there. So I will try to discuss on these minute aspects, and I will take one example also for demonstration. Now, one thing which we should know is that SAM is the most popular technique for hypothesis testing and theory testing. Now, there are two words here, hypothesis and theory testing. So, whenever you want to examine the hypothesis or test a theory, this SAM is the most popular technique. Now, when SAM should be applied? Because a lot of people ask that why we should apply SAM and why not multiple regression model and why not other techniques? Why SAM? So, SAM should be applied in four cases. Number one, when you are having the constructs, not the variables. And these constructs are measured with the help of few items. I'm giving you one example. Suppose in economics, you are dealing with the GDP, exchange rate, and all other variables, because all these are the variables. So here SAM is not applicable. You have to apply some other regression models or model based on regression. But if you are using primary data, which is collected from the questionnaire, and in the questionnaire you are using some constructs. These there are many constructs like employee engagement, employee commitment, talent management, brand loyalty, brand image. All these are constructs. So number one, when you are dealing with the constructs, which is measured with the help of few items, then SAM is required. Number two, when you frame a hypothesis on the basis of literature support and theoretical background. So I will also show you one example. Then normally how we formulate the hypothesis for SAM, and if you want to examine the hypothesis, then you can apply SAM. And sometimes what happens, we are having independent variables, mediating variables, moderating variables, dependent variables. So we are interested in examining the complex structure and complex relationship in the model, which cannot be tested by other methods. Then we prefer to apply structural equation modeling because the structure is complex. We are using many constructs in the model. Some of them are dependent, independent, mediating, moderating, and the model is complex. So we prefer to apply structural equation modeling. Yeah. But the last option that we have, the last requirement is your sample size should be large and normally distributed. So this is one of the assumptions of structural equation modeling. And what is the meaning of large sample size? Large sample size means uh, at least 10 times as compared to the number of items which you are using in the model. And there is one also, there is criteria. This criteria is known as Bentler and Chow criteria. According to the Bentler and Chow criteria, if your items are normally distributed, then you can cut down the sample size from 10 times to 5 times. Even if you are having 5 times the number of sample size, number of observations, then it's sufficient. So normal distribution and 5 times is the minimum requirement to apply SAM. Okay, now the concept which is more important in this case is literature support and theoretical background. So I am going to discuss on this point in detail. Before that, I am going to show you a basic structure of a structural equation modeling. So if you see the PPT, in this PPT, this is a simple structural equation model. In short, we can call it a structural model. And this structural model is a first order structure model. This is a first order SAM. So even I should write also, it is a first order SAM. So this is a first order SAM, and this is my endogenous construct. You can see it. This is my endogenous construct, and all these are the error terms in the SAM or structural model. This number is representing the relationship between two different constructs, and this number is known as path coefficient. This number always comes between 0 and 1, maybe minus and maybe plus. So similarly, these numbers are also the path coefficient. So all these numbers are path coefficients. And then you can see this square, this 66. This is basically the R square. This is R square. R square means, suppose this is 48%. So we can say that 48% of the variance of the organization productivity can be explained by this model. Similarly, we can say 66% of the variation in the employee improvement can be explained with the help of this model. So it is expected that your R square is more than 50% in most of the cases. So we expect the dependent variable must have R square greater than 50%, especially when you are having only one dependent variable or one endogenous construct. So in short, we call it endogenous construct. And then we are having independent constructs. So these independent constructs are known as endogenous construct, exogenous construct. And we are having three exogenous construct. Exo means independent, and we are having three independent construct which are also connected by the double-sided arrow. So you can see that this is 74, 81, 76. These numbers are over these curved arrows. So these numbers are representing the correlations. These three numbers are representing the correlations. Ideally, these correlation value should be less than 0.7 because 0.81, 0.74, 76 are very high. They should not be very, very high, especially more than 0.7. They should be less than 0.7. But here we are having a problem. Okay. After that, you can see these numbers between all these numbers are lying on the arrow, which is between items. These are the items, and this is a construct. So these numbers are known as construct loading. So you can see that these items, these numbers are known as construct loadings. And as we discussed yesterday, these construct loadings should be greater than 0.7. Right. So 102 value in 0.6 is fine, but it is expected that more than 80% of the value should be greater than 0.7. Like similarly, we are having all these values greater than 0.7. So we are not having any problem with respect to construct loadings. And these are the error terms. Okay, now there are some rules of the SEM. So basic rules is that the correlations is only allowed between the independent constructs. These correlations are not allowed between the mediating or dependent construct. So this is one rule you should know. And second rule is that wherever you can see the tip of the arrow, wherever you can see the tip of the arrow, error terms is 100% to be connected. So like this tip error, this tip error. So whenever you can see the tip of the arrow, you have to attach one error term on the construct, right? Similarly, you can see that even these items are connected by the tip of the arrow, so error terms are connected. So this is another rules we have to follow. And another case is that all mediating dependent construct must have this error term. And what is left here? Path coefficient we have discussed, the error term we have discussed, and these values are basically R square, and endogenous construct is fine. First order and mediating. This construct is mediating construct, which comes in between the two different constructs. The construct which comes in between endogenous and exogenous construct is known as mediating construct. And mediating construct is always the part of the model. ये model में होता है. So this is the mediating construct. Moderating construct may be the part of the model or may not be the part of the model. So that we will discuss in another lecture. Now, so I think we have discussed the basic model of the structural equation modeling and some basic rules. So what is basically the SAM? So by definition, structural equation modeling is a procedure of estimating a series of dependent relationship, and each dependent relationship is denoted by arrow. And these arrows are drawn among a set of constructs, and these constructs are represented by multiple measured items. multiple measured variables or items, and incorporate it into an integral model. And in every structural equation modeling, we are using the concept of regression and factor analysis. So we are using the concept of regression and factor analysis. So if you understand the regression and factor analysis, then the SAM is easy, because all these arrows are representing the regression and all these constructs are representing the factors. So two concepts are incorporated in structural equation modeling. After that, let's move to the, yeah. So in this slide, I'm showing you a very, very important practice if you are planning to write a paper on the structural equation modeling. So one thing you need to mention in the paper that uh, this is 2.2. I took it from a paper. So in this paper, this is section 2.2, and this section is talking about environmental consciousness and the consumption of green product. And so the author of the paper is talking about environmental consciousness and consumption of green product. Then he writes some sentences, and all these sentences are basically the result of other research papers. Like you can see, this is one support, second support, third support, fourth support, five support, six support. So in total, the scholar give the support of three research papers, six research papers, and then formulate this hypothesis. Right. So those aspects supported the formulation of hypothesis number two. This is the hypothesis. Now, what if you see the hypothesis? All the hypotheses I found in structural equation modeling are alternate hypothesis. So I have not seen the null hypothesis whenever you are applying the structural equation model. And the reason of this alternate hypothesis is that this hypothesis is supported by different papers. So if you see the language of the hypothesis, the consumption of green product is positively influenced by environmental consciousness of consciousness of consumers. So this is a positive hypothesis, alternate hypothesis, and this hypothesis is supported by the literature. Now, actually, I'm telling you some of the cases which I came across recently. If your hypothesis is not supported by the literature, your hypothesis will not be accepted by the panel members. Right. So this kindly take care of this point. If your hypothesis is not supported by the literature, then it may be rejected by the reviewer. It may be rejected by the panel because SAM is strictly for the testing of the theory. It is not for data mining or data or theory building. So I'm giving focus to this point that whenever you want to plan to apply SAM, so take care that whether your hypotheses are supported by the literature or not. If not, then you will have a problem. Maybe the problem comes from the panel member side or the reviewer side or the publication side, but the problem will definitely come. So I focus on this point and say hypothesis for SAM must have a strong literature support and theoretical background. And whenever you are framing the hypothesis in SAM, so the hypothesis should always have one explain what you expect to happen. For example, I'm happening. This author is expecting positive relationship between the two variables. So explain what you expect to happen. It should be very clear and understandable, be testable, be measurable, and it should contain at least one independent and one dependent variable. So these are the properties of the hypothesis framing, especially for structural equation modeling. So I hope this point is clear to you, because if your hypothesis is not supported by theory or the literature, your SAM model will not be accepted. Okay. Now, in structural equation modeling, we have seen that there are two types of arrows we used. This is called one-sided arrow, and this is called double-sided arrow. One-sided arrow is always comes between the construct and according to the hypothesis. If you frame the hypothesis will give you the one arrow. So it means every arrow in the structural equation modeling is a hypothesis. So every arrow in structural equation modeling is a hypothesis. For example, in this case, this arrow, second arrow, third arrow, and fourth arrow. So there are four hypotheses we are testing in this model. So in this model, there are four hypotheses: number one, number two, number three, and number four. So in structural equation models, every arrow is representing the hypothesis, and you have to calculate regression coefficient or path coefficient for the arrow. Similarly, double-sided arrows. Number one, double-sided arrows represent the correlation, and this correlation is only allowed between the two independent or two exogenous construct. You are not allowed to put double-sided arrows between the mediating or dependent construct. So this is the rule we have to keep in our mind. And one thing which I'm asking to you, do you think this arrow is compulsory or it is by choice? So what do you say? These arrows between the exogenous construct, are these arrows by choice or they are mandatory to apply? Right. So because I faced many problems in this case, whenever we sent the paper for publication, the reviewer asked us to apply the double-sided arrows between the constructs, independent constructs. So directly or indirectly, although it is not written anywhere, but I'm saying from my experience that your reviewer may ask you to apply the correlation structure between the independent constructs. So this is the interesting point we faced recently when a reviewer asked us to join the all independent construct by the double-sided arrows. So this is the point I want to share with you. So be careful when you are applying any structural equation model. You have to connect all independent construct with double-sided arrows. So this is the important point you should know. Uh, this is so it is not mentioned that it is mandatory, but actually when the reviewers ask you to put, so directly or indirectly it is mandatory, it is compulsory. Okay. Now whenever you want to apply SAM, so there are some assumptions of structural equation modeling. What are these assumptions? Number one, the assumptions, first assumption is of multivariate normality. The multivariate normality is measured with the help of Mardia coefficient of kurtosis, and this value, the value of Mardia coefficient of kurtosis should be less than number of statements multiplied by 2 divided by 2. Yeah. So suppose you are having 25 statements. Suppose you are having 25 statements, then Mardia coefficient of kurtosis should be less than 50. Suppose you are having 70 statements, then your Mardia coefficient of kurtosis should be less than 140. So this is a kind of practice we follow in case of multivariate normality. Now, then we examine whether the cause and effect relationship or hypothesis are significant or not. The most important purpose of applying SAM is to examine whether the result supported our hypothesis or not. So, because you have to mention in the paper whether the results supported the hypothesis or failed to support the hypothesis. So this is one thing we have to check. Number three, you have to apply correlation between the exogenous construct and check whether they are significant or not. Even if they are not significant, but you have to apply correlation between the exogenous constructs. Exogenous means independent. Then after that, you have to check the model fitness indices, and model fitness indices are same for CFA, for construct, for SAM also. And if your model fitness is not coming, then it is a serious problem, because if your model fitness indices are not as expected, then your paper will not be accepted. So you have to check whether there is a possibility of the modifications or not. If there is a possibility of modification, so you have to modify the fitness indices. Otherwise, your paper will not be published and your model will not be accepted by the panel members. So this is the another important point you have to keep in your mind, whether the model fitness indices are coming as per the requirement or not. If not, then you need to modify. Okay, so these are the points which I will also show you when we run the model. After that, I'm discussing some of the theories because these are the most popular theories I have seen in last few years, which are the most popular theories of researchers. This is one of the theory of planned behavior. This theory is known as TPB theory. And why this theory is important, I'm telling you, in marketing, because in marketing, you have to study the behavior of the consumer. And this is the one of the best theory which explains the purchase behavior of the consumers. And I have seen that people apply this theory for banking products and internet banking, uh, online shopping, then green products. In case of green product, people are using this. In case of organic products, in case of food product or non-food product. So there are many products which are examined with the help of this theory. So researcher sometimes also add some construct in this theory to improve the theory. So I will also discuss that what kind of improvement you can do in theory of planned behavior. So in theory of planned behavior, the attitude, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral control. So you can see that all these three are connected by double-sided arrows, and they are exogenous constructs, and each construct is measured with the help of some items, and these items are easily available in the literature, so that is not a problem. And attitude, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral control is expected to influence the purchase intention of the consumer. And if purchase intention is strong, it will strongly influences the purchase behavior. So this theory explains the behavior of the consumer for different product line. Now I'm giving you one example. So which I'm showing you in the next slide. So this is another slide, and this is a structural equation model which is based on the theory of planned behavior. Now, if you see this model, we add one construct. This is the addition of the researcher. So basically, this is the addition of the researcher. Now, how this addition will take place, I am telling you. Basically, the researcher want to examine the theory of planned behavior for luxury product. So in this case, the product is luxury product. Luxury product is having its own definition, right? Luxury. Okay, so this is not required. In case of luxury products, the researchers say that along with the all constructs which are already there in the theory, the brand image is very important, because if even if you are having intention, attitude, all these things, the purchase intention and purchase behavior will not come if brand is not there. So in case of luxury product, the brand image play a very important role. So the scholar added this new construct to enhance the theory in case of luxury product. So this is the extension of the theory of planned behavior by the researcher. Now I'm giving you one more example. So I read one paper which is written by some IIT professor. That IIT professor is applied the theory of planned behavior on organic foods, and then the professor found that this theory of planned behavior is incomplete in explaining the consumer behavior for the organic product. So he conducted a research and added a new construct. The new construct name is health consciousness. So the researchers say that in case of organic food, this health consciousness is also playing a very important role in influencing the purchase intention and purchase behavior. So what is the crux of these examples? The crux is that, so whenever you want to apply the theory for some particular product and you feel that the theory is incomplete, so you can add some more construct on the basis of some literature and test the theory like this, right? So this is the purpose of structural equation modeling, to build or to enhance the theory. Now another model which is, but now this model is obsolete because now this model is replaced by some advanced models. But technology acceptance model was very popular few years back. When you want to study that why user adopted a new technology, the new technology means like online shopping itself a new technology, internet banking is also a new technology, the wallet payment is also a new technology, then driverless car is a new technology. So when a new technology comes and you want to understand the adoption behavior of the consumers for the new technology, then this theory was very popular. So this theory say that there are many external variables which influences the perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use, and both will have an impact on attitude, which will impact further for behavioral intention. Behavioral intention means the intention to use, and when you start thinking about the usage, then you go for actual usage. So this is about the technology. Then another theory which is very popular is that theory of reasoned action. Theory of reasoned action. If you want to explain why a particular kind of behavior is demonstrated by the user, right? So then this theory is very, very helpful. For example, I'm if I want to know why satisfied customers go for e-word of mouth, the e-worm. E-worm is a technical word. E-worm means electronic word of mouth. Means if you give your feedback about your experience to the hotel or to the product in the websites, so that is called e-worm. Now the question is that why consumers go for giving the feedback on the websites. So if you want to explain these kind of actions, these kind of behavior, then this theory of reasoned action is applicable. So the theory of reasoned action is also applicable in most of the areas. If you want to explain a particular behavior, if you want to, it is not a purchase behavior, it is a kind of other behavior, right? Then you can go for theory of reasoned action. Then the most popular theory, which I found nowadays, is known as unified theory of acceptance and use of technology model. This theory is having many versions like UT-AUT 1 model, UT-AUT 2 model, UT-UAT 3 model. So there are many versions of this model because most of the scholars are working on this theory nowadays. And recently, I know that at least I covered, I consulted more than 20 PhDs, which are based on UT-AT model. And recently, many scholars are using this theory on online teaching. So why people are adopting the online teaching, right? So this theory say that the performance expectancy, effort expectancy, social influence, facilitating conditions. Because of these four reasons, you are having the intention to adopt a technology, and once you have intention, then you actually go for a usage behavior. So this theory is very, very popular nowadays. And this theory is also having moderating variables. You can see that gender, age, experience, and this is voluntary use. So these are the basically moderating variables. And the moderating variables never come with the part of the model. They always remain outside. But these arrow will indicate that this relationship is different for different people. Like for example, if I say gender is having three arrows, 1, 2, 3. It means the difference, the behavior of male and female are different for the three relationships. So this theory is another theory which is very, very popular for structural equation modeling. And this is, I'm showing you some of the models which I used um, in different research projects. So, for example, this is also a paper on where the researcher is interested to find out that whether the adoption depends upon these aspects or not. Like enjoy means hedonic motivation, and nowadays hedonic motivation is playing a very important role in adopting the technology. And there are other applications, there are other reasons for the adoption. And now we are finding out that after the adoption, whether the customer is having satisfaction or not, right? And then it is intention to further use. This intention means intention to continuous usage. To some extent, it is called sustainability. So whether this, like for example, in online technology, we want to know whether these factors are significantly influencing the adoption behavior of the consumers for online teaching or not. Are they satisfied? If they're satisfied, would they want to continue this technique in the future or not? So this is also based on some theory, and this I'm also showing you another theory where these are the different factors of mobile banking. It is an old paper, and these are the different factors influencing the adoption behavior of the mobile banking and the behavioral intention to continue in the future. So these are the different models which I'm showing you, which are based on structural equation model theories. Now, some basic aspect. Many scholars ask me, sir, is it necessary to apply SAM? Can we do it with the help of multiple regression? This question is very common. Most of the scholars, because they don't know how to apply the structural equation modeling, so they want to finish their PhD by applying multiple regression model. But I ask them, do not do this, because multiple regression is not the suitable technique when you are using the construct. So now, what is the basic difference between the structural equation modeling and the multiple regression? In multiple regression, you can see there is only one dependent and many independent. But in structural equation modeling, you can have many endogenous and many independent constructs. So this is one advantage which we cannot have in multiple regression model. In multiple regression model, we are having some problems like multicollinearity. But in structural equation modeling, we are allowed to correlate the construct, independent construct. So correlation between exogenous constructs is allowed in SAM. And another difference is that all multiple regression models assume to be have linear relationship. Right, linear relationship is assumed between dependent and independent variables. However, in statistical equation modeling, if you remember, I showed you on the second day, then we apply maximum likelihood estimation method to estimate the parameters. Right. So maximum likelihood estimation is able to capture the non-linear relationship between the variables. However, in multiple regression, we assume only linear relationship because it is estimated by OLS method. So this is the basic difference between SAM and multiple regression. Now, in Crux, I can tell you, if you are using the variables like GDP, exchange rate, all these variables which are actually the variables which are not the construct, then you can go for multiple regression. But whenever you are using the construct, right, then multiple regression is not the right technique to apply. You should go for a SAM. Okay. Now, when you construct a SAM, these are the standard procedure. Number one, you have to first design the individual construct. So what is the meaning of individual construct? Because you're asking this again and again. Now I'm giving you an example. Suppose, let's go back. Suppose I am taking I'm using this theory. Let me explain you this theory. This theory is theory of planned behavior. And one of the most important construct in theory of planned behavior is purchase intention. Now, in purchase intention, in this case, I measure purchase intention with the help of only 4 items. Only 4 items. But I'm showing you that in different theories, different research papers, some are using 8 items, some are using 3 items, some are using 5 items. So the question is that how to finalize this purchase intention construct. The name of the construct will be constant. You cannot change the name of the construct, but you have the authority to change the items, right? But all the items should be taken from the existing literature, but you can increase the items, you can decrease the items. So that is your authority. So that's why the first point is that, first of all, design and finalize the individual constructs. It is also possible that in one construct you added the 6 items, where 3 items is for one paper, 2 items is from another paper, the sixth item is from another paper. So you can do that. That is not a problem. But you cannot change the name of the construct. Then after finalizing the individual construct, and in some cases you can drop the items also, or add some new items also. This is also possible. Then check the validity of the model with the help of CFA. Once you are clear with the constructs, then go with the measurement of liability and validity measurement model. Then go for measuring the common method bias. And today, Manu shared one paper which is also reporting the non-respondent bias. Non-respondent bias. So I'm explaining the non-respondent bias here also, because nowadays I found that if you are not explaining the non-response bias, somebody will ask you that somewhere in the panel, in the Viva, or in somewhere in different platforms, they will ask you to report it. Now, what is the meaning of non-response bias? Non-response bias, because it is a kind of biasness. So I'm including in fourth point that measure the common method bias or the non-response bias. The suppose you are sending the questionnaire to 600 people or 600 respondents, it may not be possible that they will all respond to you. Suppose out of 600, you will get questionnaires of only 400. 200 are not giving you response. This now the question is that if these respondent, which actually did not responded, gives the response, is there any difference will come in the result? मतलब जिन लोगों ने आपको रिस्पॉन्स नहीं दिया और आपने उनसे रिस्पॉन्स मांगा था उन्होंने नहीं दिया, तो अगर वो रिस्पॉन्स दे दे तो क्या रिजल्ट डिफरेंट होता? So this is called non-respondent error. Now in that paper, how this is addressed, I'm telling you. So in that paper, the respondent are divided into 2 categories: early respondent and later respondent. And the authors say that the respondent who gave the response quickly, we call them early respondents. And the other respondent, we have to consistently follow them हमने उनको बार बार फॉलो किया, बार बार रिमाइंड किया, रिमाइंडर भेजे, फॉलो किए, और उनके रेस्पोंडेंट बाद में आए. So in the paper it is clearly mentioned that these late respondent are assumed to be non-respondents, right? So the comparison is made that whether the responses of early respondents and the late respondents are same or not. So independent sample t-test was applied on the mean on the construct, and it is proved that there is no difference between the early respondent and the late respondents. So in this way, the author addressed the non-response error. So I hope it is clear now. And if it is not clear, I will show you in the demonstration part or in the discussion section. Then after examining the all kind of biases, liability and validity, then we go for a structural equation modeling to examine the hypothesis. So they specify the structural model if the measurement model is valid, and draw the conclusion of hypothesis testing and make recommendation if the structural model is valid. So this is the common practice we are using in structural equation modeling. So now I'm giving you demonstration of a example data I already shared with you, and so I will show each and every step of structural equation modeling. So I gave you this data. The name of the data is practice data, practice SAM. So I gave you this data, and I'm going to use this model, right? So I will make this model again so that I can show you the different steps, but this is the model which I'm going to make. So I hope it is clear. You can see the model, and I just click one photograph of the model and I will make a new model. Because I can make this model in just 2 minutes. So let me click the photograph. Okay. So now I am making this model and showing you the steps from beginning. Okay. So when we open the front page, this is the page which will come, and we are going to use this page. And there are some certain steps which I am going to tell you. First of all, use this select data file option. And if you click on this option, go to the file name and select this data set. So this is the data set which I'm going to use. There are 556 observations in the data set, and now it is clear. And I can see all the variables here. So you can see all the variables are here, and let it take it in this side. Okay, now what you need to do, you go to the view, interface properties, because for structural equation modeling, I always prefer to use landscape legal. This is the best option for measuring the structural equation model. So I use this paper size, apply, and after that you can see that the paper size is like this. Okay, now I'm making the model, and in almost every construct there are 3 items. So I will keep 3 items in all the constructs. This is for rotation, and ये गुलदस्ता हमेशा click होना चाहिए. Then click on this. Okay, now I can copy it. So after making the one construct, you can copy other construct from here. This is A5, and how many construct I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 independent. One, two, three, four, 5, and 6. Then we are having one mediating and one dependent. So these are the different constructs we are going to use. And let's adjust these constructs. Okay, this is my mediating construct. So let's adjust it. Okay, so I have 6 constructs in the model. Then I'm taking the hypothesis. The first hypothesis this, second hypothesis, third hypothesis, fourth hypothesis. All these straight lines are hypotheses. and these. So we are having in total. This pencil is used for making the beautification in the diagram. Okay, now I have 6 hypotheses, and all these dependent variables must have the error terms. This is the rule. So wherever the tip comes, this error term always comes. Now this is the complete model, and after that we can set the variables. So let me check. The first variable is perceived ethics. The name of this construct is perceived ethics. Okay, then the second and the variables are PE1, just drag and drop. Then the second construct is perceived trust. Then the perceived trust, we are having 3 items: PT1, PT2, and PT3. Similarly, the third item is perceived satisfaction. Perceived satisfaction, and you can see that the two words should not have space between them. Then we are having P set, perceived satisfaction. Then we are having perceived enjoyment. Perceived enjoyment, and this is P enjoyment. Then we are having perceived social pressure. And perceived social pressure is demonstrated by PSP1, PSP2, PSP3. Then we are having this perceived awareness. Perceived awareness, and PA1, PA2, and PA3. This is the behavioral intention. And behavioral intention is BI, and BI3. The last is actual usage. And actual usage is measured by AU1, AU2, and AU3. So after this exercise, everything is filled, but error terms are empty. So I can fill the error terms by going to plugin and name unobserved variables. After that, I have to beautify the diagram so that you can see each and everything clearly. Okay, now you can see all the constructs clearly. Okay, so if you select this whole hand, you can see the all the diagram is become blue. Now, whatever you do, it will apply for each and every construct, every item. Suppose I want to change the shape of this item, so I can change by only one command. I do not go for individual and change it. So this saves a time. This saves a lot of time. If you know these tricks in SAM, whole hand means select all diagram together and make change in all at a time. So now the diagram is completely ready. After the diagram is ready, now each and everything is ready. I am going to run it. So if you want to run it, now the question is that whether I should add the correlations between them or not. So first of all, just run this and let's see whether these correlations are needed or not. Then we go for analyze properties. We go to output. We want standardized estimate, square multiple correlation. This is R square. And we go for modification indices. At least I want to keep it 10. Then correlation I want to see. Normality I want to check. And profit. Now I want to save it. Otherwise, the software will not run it. Save it. And let me save in the name of practice M. So I'm overwriting, or now I can run it. The software is saying that MOS will require the following pair of variable to be uncorrelated, right? So now you have two options: cancel the analysis or proceed with the analysis. Now let's proceed. First, do it without correlations, and let's see the result. The software is saying that some problem is coming. Okay, but first of all, check the normality. Okay. So I think we are having 65 BI. So because this exercise, assessment of normality, will you can examine that is there any problem in the minimax and minimum and maximum responses. So by mistake, one response is 65, so I have to correct it. It is indeed BI1. So I go to the data set. If you click on the view data, the data will open in SPSS, and we can check where is the problem and correct. So you will also do this, and in SPSS file, BI1, this is BI1. BI1, by mistake, some observation is 65. So I have to find out this observation. Yeah, this is 65. I put only 5 and save it. Now, after saving, if you run it again, the software will remove this problem automatically. So now, again, check the result. Go to the normality. Okay. Now, first of all, I have to check the normality. How many statement I'm using it here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So this should be less than 48. So fine, we are not having much problem in here. So multivariate normality is achieved. Not a big problem, because you can see that there is no skewness. Skewness level is very low. However, 3 statement have cutting problem. This problem can be addressed. If you solve these problems, this 50 will come down. Okay, then we go for model fitness. Model fitness is very poor. It is 10. Simin upon DF, you know that it should be less than 3. GFI should be greater than 0.8. AGFI should also be greater than 0.8. CFI is also very poor, 819. And similarly, if I see the RMSEA, 13, it is the model fitness is very poor. Actually, most of the scholars are stuck at this point and they don't know what to do. So I got calls from the scholars that I stuck in the SEM and don't know what to do. So what you should do, you should go for model fit indices. And you can see that there's a lot of suggestions in the model fit indices. And there are 2 types of suggestions comes here. The first suggestion is basically the joining of the correlations. This is the joining of the correlations. And later on, we are having joining of the error term. So let's start with the highest suggestion. The highest suggestion is this, that you should join perceived satisfaction and perceived enjoyment. Perceived satisfaction and perceived enjoyment. So you should join this. So let's start with the modifying SAN. Perceived enjoyment and perceived satisfaction, these 2 are found to be highly correlated. So I start with this modification, and let's move again. And this modification will improve the model fitness. Now you can see that the earlier it was 10, now it is 9.8, and this also increases, this also increases, but still we are having problem. Again, go to modification indices. Now the highest is, you can see that 270 or 355. This is very dangerous. Error number 17, error number 20, error number 17 and error number 20 is showing you the uh, 305, which is very high. I think this is the highest. So 17 and 20, let's see which is 17, which is 17, 17 and 20. कहाँ पर हैं दोनों? 17, okay, 17 and 20, 17 and 20. So BI1 and PA2. The problem is that PA2 and BI2 cannot be joined. These two error terms cannot be joined. So this is a problem actually. Now, if how to solve this problem? So I'm telling you the way to solve this problem. PA2, BI2. Let me check it once again. Am I examining the same error term? 17 or 20. So 17 and 20. So BI2 and PA2. Now, what is the problem here? Where is BI2? This is BI2 and PA2. Now the problem is that these two numbers are whenever same, I have to change it. Like you can see that this is 3, this is 3, 3 and 3. So I will change it so that I can show you that how this will change the modification. So I am doing the opposite change. So I will change not all, only few of them, just to show that how model fit can be improved. Now this 4, 4, 3, 2, and now this is 2. This is 4, 3. Okay, and this is 2, 2, 2. You can see that all are equal. So that's why the problem is coming. So you need to break the correlation. Okay, so I will do up to 50 observations. Let me check. 5, 4, then it is 3, 1, 5. So I just want to break the correlation. Okay, 3, 5, 5. Okay, now let's see what happens. What happens? So I just run it again and will show you the model fit. So you can see that this model fit drastically come down. This solved. This is also improved. This is also improved. And again, I go to modification indices. So 17 and 20 come down to 186. Earlier it was 300. Now it is 186. So this is one of the things you can do. And let's see again 10 to 114. So perceived social pressure and perceived trust. So if I add all the constructs, because I have to add all the exogenous constructs, this is the requirement of the SAM. Now, if I do it with all, what will be the result? So I think now I added all. Okay, so just so I'm showing my independent construct this way and run it again. So perceived trust, perceived enjoyment. Okay, some is still missing. I think I joined all pairs and let's see. Now you can see the model fit come down to 6. CFI is more than 0.9. GFI is more than 0.8. AGFI is also more than 0.8. And RMSE is also at the margin. So if you repeat that modification indices part, like this error 18 and 21 is very high, 16 and 19 is very high. So if you take care of these, then you can improve your model and can run it. So after model fit indices, now go to the estimate. So you can see that all the 6 indicators are significant. All the 6 indicators, all the 6 hypotheses are supported by the results. So you need to check this part. So this is, it means all hypotheses are supported by the result. All hypotheses are supported, and then we have to check some other measures also, like you need to check this part. So in this case, you can see that this is the highest. This is the highest value, and this is the second highest value. So the strongest hypothesis is in between the behavioral intention and the actual usage. The behavioral intention and the actual usage is having the strongest relationship. This is followed by perceived awareness on the behavioral intention. Although all are found to be significant, then you need to check the R square. The R square is found here. The R square of behavioral intention is quite good, 79%, which is good. And actual usage is found to be only 20%. So this is slightly low. This should be improved. Otherwise, the R square of behavioral intention is fine. So in this way, we examine this model and we examine the hypothesis. Now my model is fit and I can use it for my paper, but you need to do some modifications, you know that. And but it is a time consuming task, so I cannot show the complete modifications. Yesterday you were asking me to give a data set where you can improve. Now it is your task or a homework to improve this model fit to the best. Okay. Now I think I covered all each and every aspect in structural equation modeling. And if I click on this red button, the standardized estimates. So you have to show all the standardized estimates clearly. So you can move the values like this, because we have to show all the values clearly. So sometimes we move them according to our requirement. After that, even if you click on here, you can increase the size of the path coefficients. All these values are path coefficients, and the path coefficients is expected to be significant. In our example, there's already significant. Yeah. So now this model can be presented. Actually, if I am telling you about this work, so one of the faculty member presented this theme in IIM Lucknow conference, and we tried to publish it, but anyhow, we are not able to convert this into a paper. But if you can convert into a paper, this is good. This work is even I write the analysis of this paper also, but that is not converted into a paper. Two theories are applicable in this model. One is user gratification theory, and one is theory that is the. So there is another theory I will tell you. So in this way, we can complete the structural equation modeling project. So I hope you enjoyed today. From my side, there is nothing more to tell, and the rest of the discussion we will do in discussion section.